evening. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, May 4th, 2017. Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories, translated into English, every weeknight. Prime Minister Rama held a press conference today where he publicized the offer made to the DP chairman on May 3rd, so that the Democratic Party leaves the tent and enters elections. Prime Minister Rama announced that he offered the DP chairman to select a vice prime minister, some vice ministers, and a political minister in order to monitor the activity of the public administration in function of elections. The Prime Minister declared that this is the last proposal he is offering to the Democratic Party. Mr. Rama considered the move of the Democratic Party to withdraw from the International's proposal to be a bluff, and added that what was proposed 9 days ago will not be offered again. During the press conference, the Prime Minister said that he did not expect the boycott of elections, saying, "Vetting could be DP's excuse to block the judicial reform. I did not expect the opposition's boycott of Parliament." The Democratic Party made a surprise move and started a dangerous action. The DP made efforts to destabilize the coalition by trying to divide the majority. The Prime Minister made clear that the election date is not included in the offer, which will be June 18th. Speaking of the negotiations with the members of European Parliament, Fleckenstein and McAllister, saying that he did not refuse or accept their proposals, but he expressed willingness to discuss everything, putting the vetting implementation as the only condition. The Prime Minister added that the DP chairman bluffed and lost. The Prime Minister has no doubt that the Democrats want to destabilize the country, but he expressed his concern that foreign forces can be used to realize the scenario. Furthermore, the Prime Minister stated that the opposition's strategy for destabilization failed successfully. According to the Prime Minister, the effect of holding the elections without the opposition will be felt in economy only in the first 3 months, and then everything will be returned to normal. After the negotiations between the Prime Minister and DP chairman at the President's office, the U.S. ambassador is making efforts to help the parties find compromise. Ambassador Liu held a meeting with Prime Minister Rama at the Prime Minister's office before PM Rama held his press conference, where he declared that he stands to the date set for the parliamentary elections. Immediately after the conference, the U.S. ambassador went again to the Prime Minister's office. In the afternoon, the U.S. and EU ambassador went again to the Prime Minister's office. Meanwhile, the DP chairman held a 2-hour meeting with the ambassadors of the EU countries at the Democratic Party headquarters. Yesterday, the British Embassy called on the parties to solve the crisis and appealed for the participation of all the parties in elections. The meetings are being held at a time when the opposition continues protesting and has announced protests to be held on May 7th in Kavaya, where local elections for the new mayor will be held on the same day. Meanwhile, the President has called the Prime Minister and the DP chairman in a second meeting today at 7 p.m. The President's call comes after he expressed his concern over the political crisis. Yesterday, the President called the political leaders in a meeting where no agreement was reached. The newly elected chairman of the Socialist Movement for Integration, Petri Vasili, gave his first press conference today, issuing a strong political message, declaring that the unilateral election without the opposition do not guarantee stability. From the Socialist Movement for Integration headquarters, Mr. Vasili said that the country is in a political crisis for which a solution needs to be found, declaring, "We are in a situation of political crisis. We have no reason to hide this. The crisis requires maturity and vision. Maturity is needed to think through the decisions we will make, and vision is needed to see the effects of these actions. Only elections accepted by all can establish solid institutions. Contested and unilateral elections could not realize reforms or bring progress towards integration." The SMI chairman considered the International's proposal to be realistic and an offer that can bring a solution for the good of the country. For this reason, his stance is the same with that of Ilir Mehta. He reiterated that the Socialist Movement for Integration is willing to sacrifice its mandates if it helps solve the crisis. Mr. Vasili stated, "I have reconfirmed the solution Mr. Mehta has proposed before. We are ready to make available all the posts we have in government in place of a solution to this crisis. The stability of the country and its future, which are related to free and fair elections, require and will require sacrifices. The SMI has been willing to be available in function of a solution." Mr. Vasili also added that the standards and the electoral process are more important than the election result. A day after the negotiations with the Prime Minister at the President's office, the Democratic Party's chairman, Basha, declared that the opposition will not withdraw from the request for free and fair elections, declaring, "We will not give up on any of the minimal guarantees for free and fair elections. Our battle is for free and fair elections, for the citizens' vote. We are not asking anything for us, but for the citizens. We will not withdraw from our requests for free and fair elections." Every Thursday, the opposition MPs give speeches at the protesters' tent, since they have boycotted the parliament. Today, they had invited the chairman of the Commission for Foreign Issues in Hungarian Parliament, Mr. Zoltán Emeth. He conveyed the message on behalf of the Hungarian Prime Minister, saying, "You have friends in Europe, and you are not alone. I want to congratulate you for your 76 days of resistance. You are fighting the same battle we have already fought. We have fought against communism. It was not an easy fight, but an extraordinary victory. Today, the fight is against post-communism. The corruption of internationals is the biggest evil of post-communism. We do not want to see a narco state in Europe. Our past is common, but your future is in the European Union." Meanwhile, the former Prime Minister, Sali Berisha, put emphasis on the opposition's protest on May 7th in Kavaya. He declared that Kavaya will be turned into the capital of democracy on May 7th, stating, "May 7th is a historic day for Albanian democracy. After 27 years, Kavaya will be turned into the capital of democracy. On May 7th, Kavaya will sign its victory, the victory of all Albanian people. I call on Kavaya's people to turn May 7th into the Revolution Day, for the citizens to peacefully and with dignity refuse this farce with which Rama aims to consolidate the Republic of Drugs. Victory on May 7th." Today, the last plenary session for the most recent legislature was held. The opposition was not present because of its parliamentary boycott. Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta made an analysis of the reforms the Parliament has approved. According to him, the new territorial division and the law on decriminalization were the most important points. Mr. Meta expressed regrets for the opposition boycott and greeted the Democratic MP Sali Berisha and Edmond Spajo, saying, "I want to mention the approval of the territorial administrative reform, which gave the local government the responsibility for a better management of human, economic, and natural resources. The judicial reform is the largest of reforms during this legislature, the foundation of the rule of law, which was approved with the votes of all members of Parliament. But this Parliament should have concluded the electoral reform and should have approved the necessary changes to the electoral code in order to guarantee free and fair elections. I am really sorry to see the absence of the opposition colleagues in this last plenary session. However, there is the opportunity to return normalcy in Parliament and political dialogue for the situation we should face together if there is the will. Thank you to everyone, and I declare the session and this legislature closed," concluded Mr. Meta, who on July 24th will be sworn in as the President of the Republic. The MP of Libra Party, Blushi, spoke in the last plenary session for this legislature, making an analysis of the reforms that Parliament has approved in the last 4 years. According to Blushi, many of the majority MPs have voted on laws that damage the public interest, only for the sake of ensuring another mandate. Bringing his attention to the reforms he considered to be failed, Mr. Blushi accused the government of lying to the Albanian people about the increase of salaries, declaring, "Can you please find someone who has received an increase of their salary? Is there any state in the world that promises the increase and does not realize it? The deficit and the money you owe to this republic cannot be repaid even with all the political activity in the coming 20 years. MP Blushi, who also jabbed ironically with the majority MPs, adding, "I wish for a good campaign to all those who will make a campaign and successes to all those who will not participate." The Socialist MP Taulan Bala replied to MP Blushi, saying that the government worked for the rule of law in the past 4 years, and in the coming 4 years, it will work for Albania's people's well-being, stating, "I am sorry that Blushi and Hafizi are leaving. You could have voted for these projects that are at the citizens' interest. You can go to the new Republic of Basha. Albanian people have praised the Socialist Party's work for the judicial reform. We worked for the rule of law. We will work for the more well-being in the coming 4 years." That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Cosmo K, and on behalf of OR News, thank you and good night.